Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. In today's episode, we are going to discuss Candace Owens had an interview with the old family friend of Kamala Harris. I don't even know if we want to call him a friend. We could just say he just knew of the family because he was a reporter down in San Francisco, and he dropped some bombshell information during the interview. So we're going to discuss that interview. Also, there was some crazy things that happened yesterday evening. Kamala Harris gave her closing arguments of why she should be president. Really an incoherent speech of the things that I've heard what she was saying. But anyway, that's Kamala. Word salad for you. But while she was giving this speech, Joe Biden decided to have this interview, and he was, I guess, on this Latino network, and he referred to Trump supporters as garbage. So he called half of the American people garbage people. So, and I guess this is maybe in light of, the we talked about it, the comedian during the MSG rally on Sunday. So maybe he was saying he's garbage. I don't know what he was referenced to, but now they're doing a lot of backtracking and cleanup for Joe Biden's his rhetoric towards half of the American people. We could just say he thinks if you're a Trump supporter, he thinks as you as garbage people. Okay, so that's basically what he was saying. Anyway, so we'll talk more about that all on today's episode. So you guys stay tuned.
Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bap. What? This is what you call a bap. Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bap. What? This is what you call a bap.
You guys put in the chat. Let me know where you're viewing from. Let's see who we have in the building. I see we have Lenny Malley. Thank you for tuning in. Celeste Hodges, hello from Texas. Puerto Rico endorsed Trump. They have a huge trash problem. Yes, this is why the guy made the joke. They have a huge trash problem in Puerto Rico. Before we knew they had a trash problem on Sunday, because if you don't follow Puerto Rico, you probably wouldn't know that. But yeah, they do have a huge trash problem. Matter of fact, they produce more trash than the normal person. Don't know why that is, but one of the articles I read, they said a normal or average citizen produce 4.6 pounds of trash per year or per week or per month, and they're producing trash about 5.6 pounds of trash per month, whatever the rate was, but it was much higher than a normal rate. But anyway, they have a trash problem in Puerto Rico, hence the joke. Keratin, what is good? Tuning in from Waycross, Georgia. Keratin is saying, hopefully Atlanta won't screw up the chances of this election. Exactly. Bobby is tuning in. The title is titillating and confusing. Okay. I kind of try to smash all the words together. I tried to mash the words together to, as much as I could fit in these titles, But yeah, it could be confusing. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. Keratin, my neighbor across the street, is a huge Kamala supporter. To summarize, she's a Democrat. Okay, well, hopefully, I don't know if she'll ever come around. She probably already voted if she's in Georgia. But what can you say? Lenny Malley is saying, I see 4 likes out there. I see 12 people in the chat. Come on, people, show some love. Thank you, Lenny. Bobby is saying, I'm neither, but I hate Trump. Okay. Bobby is not for Trump. Tyrone Price, former CIA agent Rep. Alyssa Slocking, Democrat from Michigan, said VP Harris will be a strong and national security issue. Oh, I thought that, I thought she was, maybe this was past thing, but I thought she was being supported by Kamala. I don't know if they support each other or endorse each other, but Alyssa Slockin, she's been flip flopping. I noticed on some things that she flip flopped on some issues on. Now people are trying to put some distance in between their voting record between them and Biden. Okay. I saw, an advertisement saying Alyssa Slockin, she voted for Joe Biden 100% of the time, and now she has some, I guess, advertisement saying, oh no, she didn't agree with him 10% of the time. Something they saying. So they trying to, put some distance between them. Bobby is saying Trump/Musk is what we will get if this dictator wins. I think that the dictator is one of the rhetoric that, mainstream media is talking about. But if you really think about dictatorship, Donald Trump, he could have been a dictator during COVID, but he did allow the states to make their own decisions. So he was already in office. If he wanted to be a dictator, he would have been a dictator. You can't argue that. Justin Thompson, hello. It's great to see you. And I'm just trying to see any new. Gary Williams tuning in from LA, California. Thank you for tuning in. Kennard the DJ, what is good? Lexi is in the chat. Thank you for tuning in. And share. Hi, beauties. Thank you for tuning in. And Angela Jordan is in the building. Why did Kamala's team Photoshop a McDonald's photo, then take the post down 4 minutes later? Don't know why they did that. Kamala Harris is full of lies. We're going to go over Candace Owens' video. Some of the things that Candace Owens have discovered about Kamala Harris and her family is kind of scary. I was using the term Manchurian candidate kind of loosely when I referred to Kamala Harris, but I really do think Kamala Harris is a Manchurian candidate. I think this is a candidate that they thought to insert and force the American people to choose, but she is not the candidate that, because she's not charismatic. And people don't like her. I think that's why she has a hard time in the videos. Even, news came out that Joe Rogan wanted to interview her, but now she's putting some stipulations. She wants Joe Rogan to fly out down to Texas. Or no, she doesn't want to come to Austin. She wants him to come where she's at, and then they're going to cut down the interview to an hour. But you know how Joe Rogan is. He's an interviewer, not necessarily an interviewer. He just has casual conversations with you. And usually, or typically, his interviews last more than an hour because they end up talking about, and it doesn't matter who he has on the show, they end up talking about all types of things, not only political things, but, stuff that you do day to day, maybe cooking. I guess that probably will be Kamala, casual conversation with, because she loves talking about cooking. So the stuff like that. So, and he's just trying to get to know you as a person. But since Kamala Harris is a fake person, a Build-A-Bear person, she can't reveal those type of information because she doesn't know. I believe Kamala Harris really don't know who she is as a person. And reason why I'm saying that is because this interview that I watched with Candace Owens and her guests, the things that he revealed, and then it starts to make sense. If you start to look at Kamala Harris' body language and the way she answers questions, you're like, okay, now I could see it. But I'm not going to talk about that just of yet. I want to get to Joe Biden. Joe Biden, like I discussed before, Joe Biden decided to get online and call everybody garbage people. And I don't know, maybe because he's senile, maybe he thought that was a good take, and it's not. And so people ran with the story. I think it's third trending. If you Google Trends, it's like third or maybe one top trending things that's happening right now. So you know, you are still the president of the United States. You're not the president of just the people that voted for you. You're the president of all people. So some of the things that you should be saying to the American people is things of, I would say, hope. Hey, we don't view our country that way. As they were saying, hey, Trump should have just came out after the comedian talked about Puerto Rico. He could have came out and said, no, I don't like that. I don't view Puerto Ricans as that. To me, I don't think he should have, because it was a joke. But, we got ultra sensitive people now. So anyway, if he wants to be politically correct, he could have came out. And then Joe Biden could have said, hey, this is not what the United States represent. We represent, we accept in everybody's culture, and Puerto Rico is a part of our nation, and we remain strong with each other. I don't know, something like that, something more presidential. But instead of being presidential, he got, I guess, really, I guess you want to call it hood with he got hood with it, where he just wanted to tell everyone that
Well,
American people are that support Donald Trump is garbage. You guys put in the chat, let me know you could hear this.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
So somebody replayed the video, or the snippet, and then so he said the garbage people are the supporters. That's the garbage people. This is not nothing new that Trump supporters are. It's not new. We're kind of used to it. I mean, of course, him being the president, he shouldn't have said it. But mainstream media, they talk about Donald Trump being a fascist, and sometimes that Mehdi Hassan exchange with Ryan Gerdersky, that exchange, because he called Trump supporters fascists or Nazi sympathizers or whatever he said. So we're kind of used to it at this point, of people calling us names. But it's one of the things that we shouldn't call each other just because you're voting for a particular party or a particular way. You shouldn't call that person a name. Yeah, I mean, you have your reasons. You question it, but like, you go to the extreme calling people Nazis and stuff. That's a little bit on the ridiculous side. So they tried to, now during this time, you had Kamala Harris making her closing remarks of why she should be the president. And let me see if this is. Let me just share this tab.
If you need it, we print it with 25% off for new customers at vistaprint.com.
You can hear this.
Isn't just a phrase on a dollar bill. The enemy from within.
Okay, so she's going through the enemy within, blah, 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 blah. I just want to make sure you guys can see it. Okay. Okay. It sounds good. Okay, so she's gonna go through the enemy within. She's gonna talk about, all the same stuff, all the same talking points. Now she is like literally in front of the White House. I don't know why Joe Biden didn't walk out. I mean, hopefully you voted for her, but at this point, maybe he voted for Donald Trump. He voted yesterday, so we don't know who he voted for, but it seems like he's really trying to sabotage her chances in getting into office. But I don't think she ever had a chance, but this is what we got.
Within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power. Donald Trump has spent a decade trying to keep the American people divided and afraid of each other.
So he spent the decade. This is why, this is dangerous what she's doing really right now. You use your closing arguments to attack Donald Trump. Okay, he's your opponent, but I would use my closing arguments not to attack my opponent, is to shore up a reason why you should vote for me, not why you shouldn't vote for the other man. Because even the people that's not voting for Donald Trump, and they might be Republicans or independent, they just decided to sit out the election because no opponent or potential president resonate with them. So why would you spend your 30 minutes, I think she's going to spend on stage, just talking about Trump, of how you should be scared and how his unchecked power. And like I mentioned before, you're talking about unchecked power, and he spent 10 years. Well, he got in office in 2016. What is she talking about? Actually, if you really think about it, it's 2017. He got elected in 2016. He was and he was placed into office in 2017. So what are we saying here? You saying 10 years of him doing what? It's only 2024, so your math ain't mathing, number one. And then number two, you keep on saying this, he wants to be vindictive and have this dictator power and go after his enemies. He could have did that the last time. And if you went through that Joe Rogan interview, the reason why he didn't go off after Hillary Clinton, he said it would be bad for the nation. So this doesn't strike to me as a guy that wants to just go after his political opponents. He probably would not go after Biden, even though Biden has some information, and they basically the person that did the the evaluation, if he took documents from when he was a vice president and took it and used it in his book. They said it was just his old age. I think his name is Robert Hur, right? He did the evaluation. And he just basically said it's his old age. Do you think if Donald Trump get in office and started going after Joe Biden, that's senile and retired, would that be good for the nation? Probably not. That's, and I don't think Donald Trump is going to waste his time doing that. But when Donald Trump decides to run, they're wasting their time going after him because he is an actual threat for them not to be in power anymore, because people actually genuinely love Donald Trump.
That is who he is. But America, I am here tonight to say that is not who we are. That is not who we are. That is not who we are. You see, what Donald Trump has never understood is that e pluribus unum, out of many, one, isn't just a phrase on a dollar bill. It is a living truth about the heart of our nation. Our democracy doesn't require us to agree on everything. In fact, we like good arguments from time to time. Just think of your own family, right? It's not the American way to not have disagreements. We don't shy away from robust debate. In fact, we like a good debate, don't we? We like a good debate. And the fact that someone disagrees with us does not make them the enemy within. They are family, neighbors, classmates, co-workers. They are fellow Americans. And as Americans, we rise and fall together. America, for too long, we have been consumed with too much division, chaos, and mutual distrust. And it can be easy then to forget a simple truth. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It is time to stop pointing fingers. We have to stop pointing fingers and start locking arms. It is time to turn the page on the drama and the conflict, the fear and division. It is time for a new generation of leadership in America. And I am ready to offer that leadership as the next President of the United States of America. Now look, let me say, I recognize this has not been a typical campaign. Even though I've had the honor of serving as your vice president for the last 4 years, I know that many of you are still getting to know who I am. Well, let me tell you, I am someone who has spent most of my career outside of Washington, D.C., so I know that not all the good ideas come from here. I am not afraid of tough fights against bad actors and powerful interests, because for decades, as a prosecutor and a top law enforcement officer of our biggest state, I won fights against big banks that ripped off homeowners, against for-profit colleges that scammed veterans and students, against predators who abused women and children, and cartels that trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. And I did this work because for as long as I can remember, I have always had an instinct to protect. There's something
front of 100,000 people to talk about what's at stake in this election and to point out that the American people have a real choice and a very important decision to make in 6 days. And it is about who will not only lead the country but occupy the White House, where critical decisions are made that include how we think about who we are as a nation and whether we are going to be a nation of people who attempt to unify and break through this era of divisiveness, or are we going to be a nation of people who has a president stewing in the Oval Office over his enemies list? And I think that the turnout last night and the kind of feedback that we are receiving is a strong indication that the American people actually want a leader who is going to bring us together. And that's the type of leader I intend to be.
Have you spoken to President Biden since his comment last night about garbage?
Listen, I think that, first of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear, I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for. You heard my speech last night and continuously throughout my career. I believe that the work that I do is about representing all the people, whether they support me or not. And as President of the United States, I will be a president for all Americans, whether you vote for me or not. That is my responsibility, and that's the kind of work that I've done my entire career, and I take it very seriously.
Have you spoken to him about his comments and his intentions?
He did call me last night, but this didn't come up.
Mom,
are you concerned about what impact this may have on voters, on the divisiveness of the election, and whether or not it's going to dissuade some people from supporting you because of your affiliation with the president and this administration?
I've been very clear with the American public. I respect the challenges that people face. I respect the fact that we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and that most people want a president that understands that gets that, and approaches their role of leadership that way. I've been very clear from my earliest years as a prosecutor. I never asked anyone, are they a Democrat or Republican? The only thing I ask folks is, are you okay? And that's the kind of president I will be.
And what did you talk about with the president?
Madam Vice President, on a separate subject, last night you mentioned removing people in the country who are here illegally. What do you mean? That's an immigration statement, obviously. Were you referring to people who have come here before illegally, or can you expand on what you meant by that comment?
What I intend to do on the issue of immigration, as I said last night and have said continuously, is we need to fix our broken immigration system in a number of ways. We need to strengthen the border and put more resources at the border, which is why I support the bipartisan bill that Donald Trump killed that would have otherwise put 1,500 more border agents at the border, put more resources into prosecuting transnational.
So you heard that. I'm not going to play the whole thing, what she was talking about. But you heard that she's saying the same thing over and over, regurgitating talking points. She said that Joe Biden called her after, I guess, he made this comment, but that didn't come up. So, and Joe Biden right now, he's backtracking of what he said. So Joe Biden is backtracking what he said, and it's like, okay, we know what you said, so why are you trying to act like you didn't say it? This is what he said. Earlier today, I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, which is the only word I can think of to describe it. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say. The comments at the rally don't reflect who we are as a nation. But that's not what you said, Joe Biden. But he's saying that's what he meant to say. Okay. That's what he meant to say. So now they're trying to play cleanup. I don't know if this is going to move the needle. I think it would cause more divisiveness in between people, but I'm not for sure if it's going to move the needle. If you wasn't voting for Donald Trump over that Latino comment or Puerto Rico comment, you wouldn't vote for him anyway. Because Donald Trump didn't make the comment. It was a joke, and a comedian made the comment, and vice versa. If you weren't supporting Kamala Harris in the first place, or teetering the fence, and then Joe Biden is making you decide, oh, I don't think I should vote for these people, you wasn't voting for Kamala in the first place. It's not. I don't think it's gonna cause any more harm to her campaign than she already is dealing with. Okay, as far as the polling numbers, let's see what the polling numbers look like. I know oh, this is bookmarked. No wonder I can't find it. I know there's been talks about a lot of Republicans are getting out to vote early, and so this is Pennsylvania. It says Trump has it by maybe 2 points. There was some things that was going on in Pennsylvania yesterday. I think they got it all straightened out. They arrested somebody in Pennsylvania because they claimed that this lady was telling people to stand in. I don't know if it was Pennsylvania. You guys put in the chat. Was it Pennsylvania or Nevada? Anyway, they arrested this lady because I guess she wasn't supposed to tell people to stand in line until they could vote. She was trying to tell Republicans, yeah, stand in line till you could vote, even though the line is long. Not for sure. I don't know how this was 19 hours ago. Trump enduring edge in Arizona. So they're saying what people are looking at Arizona. These are different polls, and it looks like Trump has it, besides Wall Street Journal, is giving him 2 points behind Kamala Harris. Then somebody else put this up last night. It looks like, I guess based off predictions, they're saying Donald Trump is going to win 296 electoral college votes because they have him winning in several key battleground states: Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, in Arizona. Don't know how true this is. I'm not for sure if he's going to win Wisconsin. If he does, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. Is Wisconsin a key battleground state? I can't think of it. I can't remember. But anyway, so you have people going out early to vote. I think Donald Trump supporters they're galvanized. I mean, they're really excited about this election. They're really determined to get Joe Biden and Kamala Harris out of the office. I think they're just really sick and tired of this open border, and they're trying to gaslight the Americans, like, oh, there's nothing wrong with these open borders. See, everything is fine. You're trying to gaslight Americans about the prices of gas and the economy in general. Like Michigan is going through some things. I don't know what's going to happen with the automotive industry if Donald Trump does not get in office. I think it's going to be horrible. They're building the world largest automotive plant. China in Mexico is building the world largest automotive plant in Mexico. They stopped building it because they're saying that they might they're thinking Donald Trump it will actually be the president for 20 will actually get elected, so they halt their construction. But if Kamala Harris is in office, I think like Michigan, our GDP, I think 25% of our GDP is on automotive jobs. Let me see. I'm just seeing how many people work in the automotive industry in the U.S. I just want to. And right now, they're saying this was back in 2022. They're saying about 4.3 million people work in the automotive industry, and let me just put Michigan. And they're saying 21% of the U.S. auto production occurs in Michigan. And 1.1 million automotive or mobility jobs presents and is 20% of the workforce. This is what I'm getting at. If the automotive industry is not able to withstand this election cycle, it's going to decimate Michigan's economy. It's going to be bad for Michigan. Right now, Chrysler just laid off some more people. I believe GM laid off some people, some automotive people. So you have a lot of people laying off. They're saying 1,700 workers in Michigan. I don't know if Ford is about to lay off people, but it's really bad for, in particular for Chrysler. And then you still have Sinn Féin trying to rally up people to strike. Well, if I'm laid off, why the hell would I strike? I'd rather have a layoff so I could get unemployment than strike, because you don't get strike pay. I think you get like $100 a week. And then you got to show up to the strike and picket at least once or twice a week. I think that's how it works. Why the hell would I want to do that? Lay me off so I could at least collect unemployment. But you got the Sinn Féin still trying to rally up people. Oh, let's go on a strike. No, well, we already laid off. Like some of the production plants, they halted production in, a very large plant over the weekend in Detroit. And then one of their trucking companies, they stop, or their assembly companies or assembly plants, they stop, they halt production. And then in some places they're shut down completely, and then other places they're just working on first shift, but all the lines are not going. So, like I said, if Donald Trump does not get in office, we could kiss most of these jobs goodbye, because these jobs that American people depend on, Kamala Harris and Biden administration, I'm assuming that she's going to roll over Biden administration if she's not going to do anything with the Green New Deal, unless she said, oh, we're going to push that to the side. It's going to decimate the economy. So you guys put in chat, let me know what you think about that. Cher is saying, I think Tank Billionaire summed up Trump's personality perfectly. He's flamboyant, unattractive, rich, down-to-earth, excellent businessman who thrives on making the common man's life much better. Exactly. Lenny is saying the only country in the world that's allowing illegals to vote in their election. To me, this is really crazy. I think it was it Pennsylvania or what state did they just said they overturned saying, oh yeah, you are allowed to vote, and you don't need an ID to vote, and you don't need to be a citizen to vote. They just overturned that. They made it into law or whatever. I guess some people was trying to go to court and say, no, this is unconstitutional. And the Superior Court said, no, yeah, we're going to allow people to vote. To me, that's insane. It's really insane. People that don't even just got here, don't even know about our society, and you're going to allow them to vote. That's insane to me. Lenny One Eye said 310. The guy is the same guy that said Joe Biden will win the last election, is saying Trump will win by 310. Get out and vote. Yeah, get out and vote. That's what you got to do. Keratin, it says the Sterling Heights is one of them. Yeah, that's the Sterling Heights plant. Yeah, that's the trucking plant that they assemble trucks or whatever at that plant. But like I said, the automotive industry, Chrysler is already suffering because of their sales, and they're not going to be able to keep up. They're not going to be able to, they're talking about selling off the brands, and that's the only way they will be able to survive, if they sell off some of the brands and, have a company to support them in this time right now. But right now, it's like, if Kamala Harris is elected, they're not going to have a job anyway. It literally, it probably won't be no more Chrysler. Unless Chrysler, I think they're building a plant in Mexico. But they need to come down on their prices too. Because right now they're not competitive. They're building crappy cars and they're not competitive. But that trucking plant, the Ram truck is like one of their best selling products. And I believe that truck is being, they're planning to build that plant in Mexico. So anyway. Let's move forward. Okay, so that was enough about that. They tried to clean up Joe Biden's garbage statement, but they wasn't able to clean it up. Now this video, this is Candace Owens. Candace Owens is discussing. She has a guest on her show, and he was a reporter back in the early 2000s in 2010 in San Francisco. And he has a lot of information in regards to Kamala Harris and her mother.
Relationship.
I'm going to play that apart where you guys could.
He was died of and got her through friend of Willie Brown, who was a lawyer of the foreign student population at Berkeley. And I did attend the
right now. We have just been crawling through Kamala's background and her history. I'm sure you're very aware of that. And we did come across your piece, which was quite fascinating for a lot of reasons. You had mentioned a previous marriage that Kamala had. You had mentioned the MK Ultra program. I would like to just start with Kamala's mother and speak about the MK Ultra program, because it's actually a program that I have been speaking about at length on the podcast this year, that I've been asking Americans and the world to really familiarize themselves with. So can you just let us know how it is that you are familiar with Shamla Gopling, Kamala's mother's work, and what it is that you know about her, please?
Well, I was sort of a contemporary of theirs in the Brooklyn area. I worked at a news service in San Francisco, Pacific News Service, and so very familiar with the characters there, where she lived, of the foreign student population at Berkeley. And I did attend the journalism school, the Graduate School of Journalism at Berkeley. So this is all familiar ground for me. Kamala was a prosecutor later when she was behind the incarceration of like hundreds and probably thousands of young black juvenile delinquents. Yeah, there was young kids, but you have to understand the situation. Then the older guys who were running the drug trade for the cartel at the schools, they would forcibly recruit these young guys, and she was just slamming them into prison. It was just horrible, and that's one reason why a lot of black men refuse to vote for her now. She, just that one-sided treatment while she let all the major cartel figures walk or just warn them, get out of here because the cops are trying to arrest you. So she was in the thick of it. She was the girlfriend of Willie Brown, who was a lawyer. He had a law office for the cartel. Later, he became mayor and a state senator. But she was just in the dirty business. And one of my best friends and proteges, Jeff Adachi, died mysteriously.
Yes, let's actually speak about that. So you have a young friend and your protege named Jeff Adachi, and the first time that I had come across his name was in your piece, and I did do a little bit of research, and it is a fact that he did die rather mysteriously, and I think it would be fair to say that he was a contender of Willie Brown's office. Willie Brown was running somebody against him, definitely made enemies, I would say, of the Democrat elite class in San Francisco. So could you just inform my readers a little bit more about Jeff Adachi?
The thing is, he was at Bolt Hall as a contemporary of Kamala's. He was a straight A student, and she was. They were going to kick her out because her grades were so bad, and they didn't think she'd make it in the law. She's never been a good speaker, and he was appointed to be her tutor, and got her through Bolt to get her degree. Later on, she was hired to be public prosecutor. And strangely enough, he was a public defender. And he set up this huge program in which a lot of people really, like a lot of parents in the Western Addition and in the Fillmore, those are black districts, were really enthusiastic because he was getting the kids out of prison. These were really hardcore prisons, and getting them into special ed programs, educational programs, work study programs, and straightening them out. And hundreds of kids, and so the community was overjoyed. And then one day he was found dead in his apartment. And they made all kinds of things that, he had this affair with this Russian woman as if she had killed him. But no, she was just a visitor in town. He had gone over to visit and chat with her. And then the autopsy was also the first one said, he was died of all these drugs. The second autopsy showed him to be clean. So this was just a major, I hate to use the word conspiracy, but that was a conspiracy about his murder, to eliminate the guy who knew too much about Kamala, had opposed her treatment of young people, and they offed him, basically.
Well, you're on the right program to talk about conspiracies. I'll tell you that for free. One of the things
My bad. This is Jeff Adachi. Okay. Jeff Adachi is the guy that they're speaking of. This is the guy that actually tutored Kamala Harris, and he actually is the reason why Kamala Harris has a law degree today. Okay. And I don't know, they didn't really make it clear. I don't know whether or not Jeff Adachi was the person was running against Willie Brown. I don't know if he was a contender, but he probably exposed a lot of things. I think he wasn't a friend of Kamala Harris afterwards, because he was really trying to help young individuals out that were caught up into like these drug cases, and other individuals that were trying to, gain citizenship. And but as the guy that's on Candace Owens' podcast, he's explaining that, hey, Jeff, he was a really nice guy. He didn't do drugs. He was real straight and narrow. And I don't know if he knew all this information about Kamala Harris. Is that why they took his life? And this is just a conspiracy. This is all allegedly. But he believes Kamala Harris and Willie Brown has something to do with Jeff Adachi's death.
Things that I've noted is that it does seem that part of this, if you want to call it a cabal, call it a mafia, one thing that they understand is to make sure that they control the medical examiner's office. And I don't think that there's any person in the entire world who would doubt that now, especially following COVID, that medical examiner offices are polluted with politics. And yes, if you're listening to this, you should look into the Jeff Adachi story. There's no question. You have a young person who has his entire life ahead of him. He dies rather suspiciously, and then the media starts throwing out all of these theories, which is what they tend to do. They create a bunch of theories so that it confuses the masses, and they look everywhere but where they should be looking. Now, I did not realize that he had helped Kamala in the past. I did not realize that they had a relationship.
You would not have gone into law without his, guidance and really attention. And it took a lot of time away from him. He was not a rich person. His father was an automobile mechanic. He worked his way through school. I mean, and as a straight-A student, that's just amazing. Really nice kid. He helped me out a lot with the Southeast Asian refugees following the Vietnam War, when they were banned from coming to the U.S., and I was dealing with a flood of them and needed some legal help because we were lobbying Congress. And Jeff just stepped right forward, took care of it, and really great kid. He didn't drink, didn't smoke, he really clean kid. We would go to bars in Japantown. Good singer at karaoke, but he didn't drink a drop. He was just a totally nice kid, all American.
And just what was the year, by the way, in which he passed? Or around about?
That was in, I think he died in the early 90s. I was by then in Japan. I had been hired after the San Francisco earthquake, major paper in Japan. So I took off, and I didn't hear about his death from my friends, because they were so tied up with it. And it was only much later that I heard that Jeff. I said, "What happened to Jeff?" And he says, "Oh, didn't you hear? He died." And then.
What is it?
It was a stunning shock to me, and there was nothing I could do it at the beginning, so it took me a long time to catch up with Kamala on this one.
Okay, so what?
Actually, he died in 2019, February the 22nd, 2019. So he got the dates mixed up, or the time frame.
It wasn't only much later that I heard that Jeff. I said, "What happened to Jeff?" And he says, "Oh, didn't you hear? He died." And then.
What is it?
It was a stunning shock to me, and there was nothing I could do it at the beginning, so it took me a long time to catch up with Kamala on this one.
Okay, so what is it about Kamala that Jeff Adachi knew that you believe would have created some conflict for her?
The cartel connection. It is. Yeah. It wasn't mafia. It wasn't conspiracy. It was a cartel. She was an agent of the cartel, and I know other stories too about members of that. When San Francisco was very close circles, not a large city.
Right. We heard the same thing from Judge.
No one knew everything else, and no one really wanted to talk except me. I worked at the Pacific News Service, and I broke these stories, but even they were scared to take on the cartel.
Very interesting. And, I did recently speak to Judge Joe Brown, and he kind of intimated the same, that she was definitely involved in a lot of dirty politicking, and especially Willie Brown as well. And you mentioned Willie Brown in your piece and his connection, which you allegedly had to the cartel. Could you expand on that, please?
Yeah, well, he was from West Texas. He was there's a lot in California, a lot of immigrants from West Texas. When the cattle industry the ranching industry wasn't doing well, they migrated west. He got a law degree, I believe in San Francisco. And his contact with the cartel was very, very early on. They probably helped him get his law degree. I remember one time he knew me. We were going to a public event. It was sort of like a carnival that there was going to be some speeches at. And I was walking toward that with my girlfriend, and then he comes walking right behind me, grabs me by the left arm and squeezes my arm as hard as he can. But you have to understand, I used to be a steel worker, a welder. I worked all kinds of jobs earlier in my life, so I was tough as nails. And once he felt my muscles flexing, he opened his hand up and just walked past me, fast as hell, sort of in humiliation. They couldn't intimidate me. That's the kind of guy he was.
Wow, unbelievable! You hear these stories.
He was a very threatening fellow, and he knows me. When I talked about the another girlfriend of him is London Breen. She's the mayor of San Francisco, and the first thing she does for homeless people as a welcome wagon is give them a pack of syringes and a bottle of heroin to inject.
Wow.
This is not a joke. This is what they're doing there.
And so working on behalf of the cartel, and we heard from Judge Joe Brown last week also that while she was in power in San Francisco, that she worked to help George Soros essentially commit legal theft by protecting one of his companies. And so we're hearing over and over again that essentially she was given power to make sure that the elites are allowed to continue these various illegal trades that they're participating in. And you seem to confirm that. I do want to...
San Francisco was run by basically the Jewish mafia. Dianne Feinstein, she was born a Catholic and went to Catholic girls' school. But she married a Jewish guy and then just flipped over. And then... and I knew, and the Jews were behind the drug industry there. I remember visiting the Harlem one because a friend told me, "Oh, we got to go over there and visit this guy." And we went there, and sure enough, he was the biggest dope dealer distributor in San Francisco. He ran a garage, the big public garage in the middle of the city, where was a lot money laundering. He was there right there, shameless about it, counting the cash at his little desk while his wife jumped on me and started rubbing her boobs on my face.
Who was this?
I forget his name. He was the major money launderer for the cartel, and the laundry was this huge public garage that everyone in San Francisco that parked there, because it's a very bad city, had to use. There's this like 6-story garage. And then he lived on Goat Hill there in a big mansion. And I was just invited there by a friend, and, we were smoking some weed. And he was saying, this is the greatest era in American history because of heroes like, what's his name, the head of Microsoft? The head of Microsoft?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, he's a giant of American industry. And I said, this guy's out of his mind. He's smoking too much. He's smoking too much of the product that he's been selling, So,
wow,
he was very core to the whole Jewish lawyers, but more important, the real estate industry. Because that's why they had all the young boys arrested. They clear out the Western Addition because they want to put up nice, cute little apartments and cottages for the gays coming in from all over the country. Because they figure, because most of them come from rich families, they live like 5 to a house to a building, share quarters, and they're going to die of AIDS. within the next 6 years. So the house would be up for real estate again.
Wow.
It's really cynical. It's like, this is like a Dracula movie. It's something out of this world. And this was America's most liberal city.
All right, guys, the media has dubbed this the
I'm not surprised to hear about this. So now Candace Owens revealed that Kamala Harris had some type of ties to the drug cartel in San Francisco. And the drug cartel, I believe, and I think they shared this during this video. Yeah, you don't need to answer. It's the groceries. The drug cartel that ran San Francisco was the Jewish drug cartel. And then they said Chinese had something to do with, or Chinese gangs or Chinese cartel had a lot of stuff to do with the dirty, illegal things that was going on in San Francisco. And they mentioned money laundering because I know one of the things that the Chinese drugs or Chinese gangs are in, they're into making counterfeit money. And they siphon money in from Canada into San Francisco and other parts of those southern states, western southern states. So, like I said, it's not surprising to me that they're revealing this information about Kamala Harris. I think that's why we don't know much about her past. We do know that she started in government. We know she had a hard time passing her bar exam. And that's pretty much all we know about her. And also, remember, he said Kamala Harris was married. But we don't know if she ever got a divorce. That's just something for you guys to think about. She got married. I thought the guy was from here, but no, he was Canadian.
Program, I recognize the connection there. Can you speak about what she did or what you are alleging she did? Yeah.
Okay, right now she is talking about Kamala's mother. Kamala's mother was a researcher, and we know that, and I already said she worked for the government. She did research for the government, but I never went like, that MK Ultra program. I didn't think it was that deep, but she was, tied into the CIA. And this is what he's about to explain.
Well, the first thing, let the first place, you got to understand that the Pollen clan, they were like clerks, judges, spies for the British when India was a British colony. And Miss Kamala was born when it was still a British colony. So the rest of the country was up in arms fighting against the British, but they were very, very loyal to the British intelligence service and police service in India. So this is how they all got ahead, by catering to the British. And that enabled Chawanne Burns, when she was, after she got her degree in Madras, India, to enter UC Berkeley, which is not the cheapest school in the universe, nor is California a really inexpensive place to go. So it's one of the most expensive places. I know. I went to school there. It's very expensive there. She worked at the monkey lab there. She was into it's a real strange combination of psychology and simian studies and zoology, okay? And she was an expert, training monkeys and all that. And Madras is an area, her hometown, where there's a lot of monkeys running around the Hindu temples and all that. And so she's very familiar and very good with them. And she developed a theory and this was a time of Jane Goodall. There's a huge boom of women who work with apes. Okay, there were ape programs set up all across the United States and England and Europe out of the excitement of the Goodall story, news stories. And Goodall were treating apes, the monkey children, as sort of like human children, and getting some very, very good responses of taming them. Mm-hmm. So she was of that school. Now, what happened while she was at UC Berkeley, after she got her degree, she moved out of Berkeley and took her 2 kids and divorced her husband, this guy Harris, Donald Harris, who was, at the time he was in biology, then he went into law, divorced him and moved to San Francisco and did nothing for 2 years. She waited 2 years while her application was in to a hospital in Montreal. So this was the Jewish hospital in Montreal. Okay, so she.
What do you want, Kenny? I'm online, so you gotta wait till I get whatever you're trying to do. You gotta wait. Just imagine you're a single parent. You move to a different city from Oakland to San Francisco. Single mother, right? I was born of a middle class. What middle class person could take off for 2 years and got 2 children? Who paying your rent? How are you sustaining a living? Can anybody tell me? Throw me a lifeline. How do you take care of yourself? We could say Donald Harris is maybe funding her operation. Maybe that was part of the divorce settlement. I'm not for sure. But what mother takes off 2 months unless, you had some type of money saved up or somebody paying something? I don't know.
She applied to?
Yes, that's where she eventually did work. Yeah, she was eventually employed there.
Process, because they had to check all your background, everything, every little detail about her. And this is because the very famous psychiatrist who really got the MK Ultra program going, Ewan Cameron. He was a Scottish guy, a pedophile, and he was a torturer. He used all sorts of drugs on victims of that program. He passed away. And there was like about 7 to 8 year hiatus where his program was shut down because there was no one in charge. And they had to move the program because Congress, there was a secret, not so secret. There was an investigation in Congress about MK Ultra. So the heat was on the Canadians. The UN Cameron's lab was in Montreal, okay? The heat was on the Canadians to fess up, so they shut that lab down. There's an infamous Allen lab, and then they wanted to set up another center, also connected to the University of McGill University there in Montreal. They had to have that certification, and in the meanwhile, they were trying to find the new director to take over from them, and she finally got the call. They brought her over. They set her up at another one at the Jewish Hospital Annex, and she took charge of not only the monkey lab. She took charge of the patient care ward. Oh, it was a small patient care ward because that hospital, Jewish Memorial, had a psychiatric clinic also. So she worked as a psychiatrist there in a very small division, which became the Center for the Revived MK Ultra program.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask a question here. So I did not realize that the person who started the program was a psychologist named Cameron. I was under the impression that the person... Ewan Cameron. Yeah, I was under the impression that it was Dr. Sidney Gottlieb who...
No.
Okay.
Sidney Gottlieb was a golfer. He was applied. He wasn't into research.
Okay.
He just applied everything Cameron had developed.
Okay.
Use of drugs, hypnotism, light deprivation, all of those nasty techniques to destroy a human's human willpower.
Wow.
Capture their brain. Gottlieb is the famous one, and everyone thinks MK Ultra was basically American technique. No, it came out of London. It came out of the Tavistock Institute of Sigmund Freud.
Yes.
World War II.
I am just so shocked that you are bringing this up because I got into a lot of trouble with the media for discussing Sigmund Freud at length, and I've been doing it on this podcast. It's super important for people to learn the truth about him, that he was a person who created a method of psychology essentially to gaslight people who were in fact being molested by their own parents, and that's why he was obsessed with children and sex. And it's shocking that we learned that he's a hero in psychology. And it's just very important for people to learn the truth about him because psychology is then, his family is then what bred propaganda. That would be the Bernays family and Edward Bernays. And you are correct. This all fits right into the MK Ultra program, which was designed to see how you could break down someone's will, how you could hypnotize them. We spoke at length on this show about how the Charles Manson murders, that was actually the CIA and everything that the public thinks they know about that. Same areas you're talking about, San Francisco, California. These are federal agents that were obsessed with learning how to hypnotize the public, how to destroy people's will. And a big part of that was molestation. And Sigmund Freud had, in fact, written pieces about how, molesting someone when they are a child, sodomizing, they were interested in exploring how they could create psychopaths. That's also another element of these programs and psychology. And I think it's hard for people to come to terms with how evil that is. And you're now saying that Shamala got the call and she then took a part in this program of testing patients.
Military intelligence created this.
Wow.
Brainwashing techniques they developed obviously massively during World War II because they tried to use that against the enemy, German allies, and so on, and the German enemy, and also against reluctant allies. They tried to use mind control techniques. But after the war, I think it was in the late 1940s, or 1940s. Between 1946 and 1948, the British military created the Tavistock Institute, which is on Tavistock Square in London. Sigmund Freud himself flew over from Switzerland to London to cut the opening ribbon. And then he assigned one of his sons to be the director of the place. He was right behind. He was the main psychiatrist in the family.
Yes, I'm...
Just to give you guys some information about this Sigmund Freud. I remember Psychology 101 when Candace Owens mentioned about Sigmund Freud. I guess that's why he loves these, research into, sexual behaviors of children. And in Psychology 101, they call it, he called it phallic envy, where a girl child will envy her mother and will look to her father for more, acceptance or more security. But one of the things that they're saying in this article, which is really kind of disturbing. I guess he ended up using exploring the sexual deviance of how it will mess up a person's mind. And I guess it didn't take well in the community. And I guess with different psychologists, and he kind of got pushed out. But I guess red flag for the CIA or the intelligence community, they wanted to explore some of these things more. Okay, so it's saying on this about him, it says a large number of psychologists spoke out against Freud, but the concept of a penis envy had been created and the damage was done. They still published it in books. Like, I was in community college. I took this class. It had to be in the late 90s, early 2000 when I learned about this. So you're saying, no, we don't believe in this concept or theory, but you still publish it. And like Candace Owens says, they're still propping him up like he was just the savior of the psychiatrists or psychologists or community. It's like, okay, you're saying this guy is gross, but you still publish his work. You put it in textbooks for people to learn. This is how, twisted some of these people are. Okay, but beyond this slight silly theory, it's not silly. It's disgusting. With some symbolic use, if not taken too literally, was there more insidious impact? Was penis envy an escape for route for abusers that affect us even today? Probably so. And then it goes to say, this is another insert. I just want to read this because I thought it was pretty gross. It goes to say, in his desperate attempts to salvage his career and gain popularity, Freud had normalized the despicable practice of adults initiating children into sex and paved the way for not only a major setback to the feminist movement of that time, but also the field of psychology for years to come. You know all this. You know all this, and I guess he's trying to diagnose sexual predators, specifically people that preys on children. You know all this, and now you're trying to normalize it. Oh, this is a normal thing because it's called this. They're trying to normalize, and now they have a name to it now. So I'm not for sure what psychiatrist came up with this name, but it's called MAP, minor attractive people. And these are adults that are attracted to minors. So now the psychiatry world or psychiatric world has now put a name to sexual predators. But this is the person that really developed these techniques. Sigmund Freud developed, in that other guy that they mentioned, developed these techniques to that the CIA or MK Ultra in just the intelligence community that we should know about. That's what they used. They're using this on people to control people, to make people, like Candace Owens says, psychopaths, and to set them off. Hey, we could make a killer out of this person, to set them off, and we could actually control them. And set them off in society and, make sure they do what we tell them to do. Like, so they called it super soldiers, but that's what they were really trying to create.
There is also some indication that even the Beatles and music has come out of Tavistock University and how it could transform, modifying human behavior.
That their craziest album
is
all about mind control.
Right, that's exactly right.
And so then what happened, as this came under some parliamentary review. There's some complaints, so they decided to move the core of the program to Montreal. Former a British colony, close to the United States, for contact, and sort of out of the way. Who would ever suspect that this dark genius program is going on in beautiful, wonderful forested Canada, right?
Wow.
In the French part of Canada too. Who would ever suspect that? And they could use the French as guinea pigs, right?
Yeah.
Now, when Kamala came in, there was concern about the British colonies, and so Kamala was more adapting this to the colonial subjects, not just the Caucasian people. And so they sent over a British disinfo agent, Hardy L. Baines. He was a character. I've actually been to one of his speech. The case, he was very intelligent, perfect English, but obviously there was something touched about his brain. And then he created the Communist Party Marxist-Leninist, okay, of Canada. Okay, it's the only communist party in Canada. And really evil character, okay? And the patients that Kamala was producing for him, very convenient, both Indians. He was a Sikh, but very independent of the Sikh movement. He was not part of the Sikh liberation movement. Him and Kamala were we call conspirators, I guess you call them. She would give him her patients, the young ones, especially they were focusing on younger people. They thought older people were not great subjects for this program. You use young guys who've been out of orphanages, out of prisons, and so on, juvenile detention. He put them with Hardio, and he did this thing called the living statues. Okay. He would. I saw one I think it was a July 4th weekend. I was off. I had a lot of jobs in New York, but July 4th was my rare 4-day holiday. I took off with a bunch of friends, and one Canadian guy wanted to go home. We drove up there all night, and in the morning, as we approached Montreal, we saw the human statues, on the road. So we slowed down and stopped. Got out. My friends were pretty rowdy and been drinking beer all night. Walked up to these guys. They're guys and women, girls, guys and girls. They were all in these revolutionary poses, posing like Russian revolutionaries, some with their fists up, other holding up a stick like it's a gun and all that. Right on a public road, okay, a major highway. Highway, not a major highway, but a highway. We got out. My friends walk up to them and start to boo, try to get them to flutter, to whisk. They wouldn't move at all. They're frozen. I said, and one guy wanted to poke one in me. I said, better not do that, man. If you could be sued if gouge your guy's eye. And then we all got spooked at once. They said, this is really, really, really weird. We got to get out of here as fast as we can. So we jumped back in car and went to Montreal for basically a weekend bash, what turned out to be a total bust. And so I got a glimpse of the Living Statues program. This was later applied to the Vietnam War. Okay, soon thereafter, the CIA recruited. They just put together a group of 200 special combatants to helicopter into the Ho Chi Minh Trail into Cambodia and Laos because it's illegal to fight war then. Each guy as a loner would be dropped off a helicopter. He could run like up to 410, so endlessly. These are really mind control people. They would hide behind a tree trunk like up to 2 or 3 days to await the person the officer they're supposed to shoot, to kill, without going to the toilet, without batting their eyelashes, and in that same frozen pose. And then with some sort of timer they had, I have no idea, the timer would put them awake, warning them that the guy's coming down the road. They take a shot at him, kill him, and then run like hell. Now, out of that program of 200, there were only 12 survivors, the 30 dozen, we call them. They got back to the United States. The Army flew them back. They were all at the CIA headquarters together, and CIA said, we don't know what the hell you're talking about. We don't know who you are. You're lying, and kicked them out. And they became sort of a motorcycle gang in North Dakota and western Colorado. And I met one of them, so I knew the backstory of it. He was a Canadian Indian.
Wow. This is
there at Shyamala's facility when he was a kid, when he was young.
So I just want to share this other thing. Like, if you guys look up MK Ultra, you could actually find a government release, and this was under Trump administration that he decided to release these documents. I'm just going to share what I found, and this is from the CIA.gov. Project MK Ultra. That's what the document is assigned or titled, and they basically give like a synopsis of the program and who was the head of it. And this guy, we could say he's factual because the names that he said who was head of the program, they're on this document. So if you guys read through, it's only 8 pages, but we could say that he's pretty much telling the truth. Maybe he's getting some dates wrong, but he's pretty much telling the truth. However, on this document, they're saying that, this program expired back in 1976, I think they're saying. 1975. They said they abandoned the program. 14-year CIA veteran Victor Marchetti has stated in various interviews that the CIA routinely conducts disinformation campaigns, and the CIA mind control research continued. In 1977, Marchetti specifically called that the CIA claimed that the MK Ultra program was abandoned, and they put this was a cover story. Okay, so we know it was still going on. This guy that's on Candace Owens' platform, he's confirming, hey, I met the guy. I met some of the guys, and they form a motorcycle gang after they came back to the United States and said, hey, we work for you. And the CIA had to deny it because this program is not supposed to be in existence. This is Kamala's mother. Kamala's mother works for the CIA, or did, because she passed away. But this is what she did. Now, in what she did, this is some crazy stuff, and it just basically confirmed that what this guy is saying, it is true. I keep on saying this guy because I didn't catch his name. I got to go back to see if she put it on his on her the description section. But anyway, it says the goals of the agency poured millions of dollars into studies probing dozens of methods of influencing and controlling the mind. Okay. This is basically to control the mind, an indication of size and range of the effort. This effort refers to the study of assortment of mind-altering substances described as follows. And they're saying impulsiveness, substances to promote illogical thinking, and impulsiveness, substance to increase the efficiency of mentation and perception, materials which will prevent or counteract the intoxicating effect of alcohol. Remember, I said they was trying to create super soldiers. Okay, Hollywood is, I forget what the lady's name. And matter of fact, when we get into after the election season, I will have to do more research. But there's a woman, and she worked for the CIA, and she used to work hand in hand with Hollywood. So some of the things that we see in Hollywood and they say is a fictional thing in regards to the CIA, it's more likely not fictional. It has some hidden truths in these movies. So, I mean, of course, it's more glamorized and all that stuff, but we should really take heed to some of these movies that they have. Now, if you want to view, there is a movie that's called MK Ultra. Actually, there's several movies out there. The one I watch is more a documentary style, but it's not a documentary. And I think it was made in 2022. I think it's called MK Ultra, whatever. So anyway, but if you Google it or look it up, you could find movies about this. So they're trying to substances that enhance the ability of individuals to withstand privation, torture, and coercion. Also called brainwashing, materials which will render induction of hypnosis, physical methods to produce amnesia, physical methods that produce in shock and confusion, substance would produce physical disablement of legs and acute anemia, substance that will produce pure euphoria and no subsequent letdown, substances which alter personality structure in a way that the tendency of recipients to become dependent upon another person is enhanced, material which you will use mental confusion such a type that the individual under the influence will find the difficult to maintain fabrication under questioning. Substance will lower the ambition or general work efficiency of men when administered undetectable amounts. A knockout pill, a material that's serendipitously administered by above routers in which very small amounts will make it impossible for a man to perform any physical activity whatsoever. Listen, what word do I use? Kamala Harris is what? Historians have asserted that creating a Manchurian candidate subject to mind control techniques was the goal of MK Ultra and related CIA projects. You're probably like, Chawanne, well, Kamala wasn't part of the MK Ultra program. Just imagine you have a mother of 2 children, okay? She is heavily involved in these type of research. 9 times out of 10, these research are day and night research. She's probably staying at the lab all the damn time. Who is taking care of Kamala and her younger sister? I just want to put that out there. Who is taking care of Kamala and her younger sister? And then you have an evil scientist as a mother. Evil, I don't know if you would call her dead a scientist, but he was heavily involved with the intelligence community. That's why when you look up her daddy and her mama, you really can't find like really no information about them. You can't really, you got to go on this Easter egg hunt to find about that. But you got these evil people as parents, and hey, Kamala Harris ain't acting right. We need to do some type of mind control over Kamala. I wouldn't put it far from that. Have you noticed Kamala likes to regurgitate the same information? She doesn't even have a personality. Have you noticed that? Kamala Harris doesn't have a personality that you could like, oh, I really like her as a person. She hasn't shown us. I think the more personable she has been was that last video I showed you. When she said, oh, we got to lock arms because we're all Americans. We got to stop this divisiveness. So, but I think it was more like an act. I think it was more an act. Okay. You guys let me know what you think about that. Tell them don't worry about that. I get it later.
teenager.
Do you think you know who will win the presidential election, or how many seats Democrats are to engage in act, and then some of her family in Freemasonry, that for whatever reason she's trying to make everyone believe she's every ethnicity but what she is, which we have been able to determine from Kamala's family, who have been very forthcoming and don't support what she's doing. Some people in her family have told us, look, we're Syrian Jews. I don't know why she's hiding this fact. And then some of her family members who are Jewish in Canada said the exact same thing. Like, we all feel like she's trying to hide the Jewish aspect, which is quite strange. The other thing that alarms me about what you're saying, though, is for Kamala to engage in this and to engage in what can only be described as program was human torture, to see if you could basically set a human being to set a human being to zero, and fill them with whatever you wanted to do, turn them into robots. And there is an aspect of Kamala that feels as though she herself has been brainwashed. And I vividly recall her relative who I spoke to saying that far from the depictions of her relationship with her mother that she gives to the public today, her mother was militant, is what he said. Her mother was absolutely militant with her children, and she now makes it seem as though she had this flowery childhood. So you have this woman who, for work, is engaging in this psychiatric torture of citizens from around the world, and then you hear from her family member that she was militant with her children. And then I watch Kamala's behavior today, and it seems like she is a blank slate in which she allows every personality to fill. Like, she can be Jamaican yesterday, she can be Hispanic tomorrow, she can act like a black preacher, as she's just done. And that terrifies me in a sense. It's almost as though Kamala herself has been brainwashed. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. You got to understand, her mother had to take care of these patients. They're her treasure. That's her ride, that's her income. She was able to buy a house with all that, and a pretty damn good house in Montreal. But her problem is she couldn't take care of her daughters. She's so much with the patients. So she had to regimen them. And she did with the techniques that she knew, and they were basically MK Ultra light. Let's say MK Ultra light rather than the whole treatment. Okay. Yeah. And that accounts for her weird speech patterns, or her sort of bizarre eye movements and body movements, or jerky stuff. That's just straight like these MK Ultra guys that you will meet. Like that one super soldier I met. He's perfectly normal over beer, and suddenly you go into his crazy jerky fits where it could be dangerous. He could kill you, So that's basically the same as Kamala. Again, she had a lighter version of it. She not the whole hog. They didn't send her to Syria, to kill a bunch of jihadists or anything. But she has definitely been touched by that. And her sister also. She was another one, Maya. She was one of the three main campaign advisors to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Right. So they were placed there sort of as controllers. And look at Hillary, what happened to her? From a sort of a goofy person into a robotic person. Right. Same thing. The program continued, and her sister was the minder. She had been through the program, and somehow they got Hillary into the program. Scary stuff what they were doing, yeah. And the scary stuff is after that program in Montreal and the congressional investigation in the USA by Congress, the whole thing disappeared off the face of the earth. We didn't get these glimmers after that, We know that big Seattle anti-World Trade Organization protest by the labor unions. And my ex-wife was a member of the Culinary Workers Union in San Francisco. She was up there. She said, a bunch of these crazy guys from Canada wearing masks. There were these small, short guys, and then the big, tall guys came throwing rocks at us, hurling rocks at us like crazy guys. And while the tall guys watched. And I told her back then, those are some of the MK Ultra patients. And the tall guys are the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, keeping an eye on them.
That's just unbelievable. And it's funny that you bring up her sister.
In the late 80s, so the program cranked on, but they found, instead of just murdering people, probably this Black Lives Matter thing also. You had all these very weird people coming in and starting a lot of trouble, violence.
Oh, yeah.
Where most of the protesters were they're just laid back hippies,
Yeah.
So I think that was another MK operation too, especially when the rioting was going on. It was 4 days of rioting or something, burned up properties, killed a bunch of people.
Oh, there was no question that was a Fed operation. I mean, when I observed it, it had all of the aspects.
The thing is, you look at Portland, Oregon, and you look at Minneapolis, close to the Canadian border. Okay, close to the Canadian border for these operatives to come down.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah, and it was just amazing. The police just couldn't arrest these people. They just couldn't make it happen. But then January 6th, they're suddenly able to identify every single person who attended. And so you really understood that the government was involved, because when they want to capture people, they certainly do. And when they don't, they certainly don't. And it's interesting you bring up her sister Maya, because very recently I was able to determine how strange it is that her daughter, which is a young woman named Demina Harris, has no father. And what I mean by that, and we just keep seeing this happen, is that she had a child allegedly when she was a teenager, and there's no father on the birth certificate, and nobody knows who the father is. And we have been kind of obsessed with, on this podcast, with this recent recognition that it appears as though they're breeding politicians. They all have this very shady background. Everything you're speaking about reminds me of the Emmanuel Macron upbringing and his story and all of the strange aspects. And he's married to a person who lived as a man for 30 years. And the entire state is colluding to gaslight the public on this fact, despite all of the evidence to the contrary. All of the evidence pointing to the fact that Emmanuel Macron is married to a man who at best committed statutory rape against him when he was a teenager. And so we're seeing this program sort of writ large across society, and it's difficult to communicate to people who are still asleep and who still hold this faith that this process that's happening is above board and democratic, and that we're truly a republic, and not that there is sort of this hand that is maneuvering behind the scenes to elect certain politicians to essentially fulfill their sadistic aims.
You're absolutely right. It's Franken politics is what it is. We've got a bunch of brain dead maniacs taking orders, and you wonder what they did to Joe Biden. He's so dependent on his teleprompter and that whatever the wire they've got inside of him, that they seem to be able to take all sorts of people under. As far as Maya's kid, it's Willie Brown's a pretty tough guy, man. So it could be, Daddy Willie.
Wow.
Willie lives alone in this 20-story apartment in San Francisco. And he likes to pick the fruit. Like I said, he likes to pick the contenders. The next successful black female political hero out of San Francisco, Willie Brown's got to put the tap on her.
Oh, my goodness.
Surprise if it's good old Uncle Willie.
I do want to also ask you, by the way, since we're talking about Kamala and her relationships and this kind of open secret, that, I mean, there really is no other way to say it, but she slept her way to her position of power. It was handed power. This was not a meritocracy in San Francisco. This was whether you were in with the mafia or out with the mafia. But you had mentioned in your piece that Kamala was previously married. And that is rather explosive. You said that she was married to a Canadian Brit and that you remember seeing the marriage vividly.
About 10 years ago, I saw the article. I always know that if I see Kamala in the news, I always take note of it. But I was just reading it on an airplane or something. So I couldn't steal the magazine. And I read, she was married to a Canadian Brit guy, happily married and living in Montreal, and he had some business in Toronto also.
Okay.
Apparently their house was in Montreal. That's all I remember of the thing. It was just something I read and I just had curiosity about. And I really regret I didn't tear the page out and stuff in my shirt. I should have done it. I sometimes I'm just too honest.
So it must have been a very quick marriage, because then she very quickly thereafter married Doug Emhoff.
Yeah, that's what that struck me. And then Emhoff's got daughters, and the wife is still good and friends with Kamala. like I say, because of the Jewish, he's in so-called in film production, okay, financing film production, but he doesn't have a list of films anywhere, okay? His name's not on any billboard. So the question is that just a cover? Was that, San Francisco again? Was that cover?
Yes. Well, someone did tell me something off record about their relationship.
If, in fact, she was still married, and maybe still married to that Canadian businessman, she's probably a Canadian and a British citizen herself, which would make her ineligible to run for nation's highest office. We don't allow Brits to sit in the Oval Office, basically, not since they burned down the White House.
Well, we also don't allow Kenyans, but that's taken place in the past before. It really is just incredible. Well, I'm going to continue to see if we can find a trace of this. As I said, someone...
The secret life of Kamala Harris. It's just fascinating, but it's also horrifying, because I'm not disgusted or hate her or anything. It's just, she is just one of the last great products of MK Ultra. I mean,
okay, I'm not gonna, we basically viewed this whole entire interview. If you guys want to listen to the rest of the interview, you can go over to Candace Owens' channel, and this is episode 92. So, I'm not surprised to hear some of the things that he said about Kamala Harris and her mother. I knew they were part of the intelligence community. I'm not surprised to hear that maybe Kamala Harris had some hands in or was an agent for the cartel, because some of the things that she did not really make any sense as far as her prosecuting low crime or low level criminals, and why not go after the bigger fish. Also, remember they found out that the one of the individuals that was responsible for processing the drugs to make sure the chemicals was said, whatever they claimed the prosecuting team was saying that it was, and they was responsible to, document and detail all this information before the case. Well, remember, 1,300 cases, they claimed that this individual was tainted. She basically either was stealing the drugs or taking the drugs, whatever she was doing. She basically ruined 1,300 cases, 1,300 something odd cases in this. Essentially, they had to throw out all these cases in San Francisco, but they were saying that they warned Kamala Harris for months, and Kamala Harris refused to do something with this individual that was doing either selling the drugs or taking the drugs. Whatever she was doing, she was dirty. And she refused to either fire this individual and make sure, hey, nip it in the butt. So is that saying that she had more involvement with this type of ordeal happening? Well, we don't know. But it's really interesting. And then, how do we know that, since we can't find any documents of a divorce, how do we know that you're actually divorced, Kamala? We found an announcement of a marriage, and this individual that was on Candace Owens' podcast is saying, yeah, I remember reading the announcement, and they were married for quite some time. They had a house together, and he was Canadian British. That's what he said. They had their house in Montreal, and he was a Canadian British guy. So, are you a Canadian British woman? Do you have citizenship in Canada? We don't know that. So And is she actually married to Doug Emhoff legally? Probably not if you never got a divorce. You guys put it in the chat. Let me know what you think. Okay. So, that's it. I know I dropped a whole bunch of information on you. Make sure you like and share this video. Later on this evening, I'm going to have to see if I could chop up the video and take out the fluff and put it online, as a separate video. And tomorrow, I'm trying to see what we'll be talking about, but I'm pretty sure I'll have some more information in regards to Kamala Harris. We'll probably look at some polling numbers and anything that's happening in the news, because, we're getting close to the election. So it's always some fires starting somewhere that we could talk about. Okay. So I am sending all my good to you guys, and I really appreciate you for tuning in. I will talk to you tomorrow.